In this video we shall talk about what is test automation. As usual, we shall start with some definitions. As we can see, the test automation is the idea to use some software to exclude humans from performing some test activities. Of course, we shall need some special management approaches, design approaches, techniques approaches and so on, and we also need some specialized software like automation frameworks or even some environment decisions like test harnesses and so on. And all these we shall use to exclude humans from performing some test activities and to make computer perform that test activities instead of us. One may think that test automation is a kind of silver bullet and it may replace humans from testing activities entirely. That's not true. As we can see in manual testing, test design, test development takes relatively few of time, but test execution that repeats and repeats and repeats, it consumes the whole time we have. In test automation, of course, test execution takes relatively few of time, but as we can see, these activities like development, debugging, support and so on, all these activities are very long ones and they may take a lot of time. And this idea we should absolutely take into account while making decision on either use automation or not. And this leads us to reviewing some factors to consider. First of all, it is time. How much time shall it take for manual and automated execution of some test? If manual time and automated time somehow equals, it is not a good idea to automate such tests. But if automated time is much less than manual time, it is of course a good idea to automate such tests. The second idea is how many times shall we repeat the test. If it's 1, 2, 3 times per whole project, it's not a good idea to automate such tests. But if it is 1 to 3,000 or even million times per project, of course it's a good idea to automate such test. The next is support effort. It is hard to estimate the support effort from the beginning, but we may refer to some experienced people and listen to their opinion on how much time shall we spend supporting and debugging our tests and so on. And the last but not least idea, we need staff, we need experienced staff, we need all those people who may estimate the support effort, we need those people who develop those automated tests. If we have such people, it's okay, let's proceed with automation. If we don't have such people, it's a big question if we shall proceed with the automation or shall we not. So, what are the main pros for test automation? First of all, it's speed. Of course, computer may perform some actions much quicker than human can. And that's good, that's very good. The second idea is reliability. Of course, we understand that automated tests and any other software may contain bugs, may be faulty somehow, but computer never makes human mistakes. It will never forget to fill some field, to click some button and so on. The next is power. Computer may perform such actions that are completely impossible for humans, especially if we speak about low-level operations or some high-performance load and so on. The next idea is statistics. Through decades, computers deal with statistics very good. Computers may gather some data, calculate some data, make some nice charts, some tables, some anything we like. So gathering statistics and representing the statistics in convenient ways is a good idea. It is nice for test automation. And it was mentioned above, low-level actions, low-level operations such as call for some dynamic linked library, using some binary protocol, doing some things inside operation system, doing some low-level file operations, and so on. It is very hard, complex for humans to perform such actions. And it is absolutely simple for any test automation tool. But of course, there are cons. First of all, staff. As it was mentioned above, we need good specialists. We need experienced people to write down, to program, to develop automated tests. We need people with deep knowledge in a huge variety of technologies. If we have such people, it's okay, but sometimes such people are not easy to find. The second is strategy. With manual testing, any strategy mistake, of course, is bad, but it doesn't lead to a disaster. But in test automation, if we choose a wrong tool, if we buy a wrong tool with a lot amount of money, if we choose a wrong approach, if we create a lot of tests that in the future we shall throw away, it is a huge disaster. It brings a big negative impact on the project. Tools. There are millions, maybe billions of automated tools. Every experienced specialist may even create some tool himself. So what shall we choose? Why this? Why not that? Maybe some free tool that is not so good, but is free. Maybe some commercial tool that is good, but it costs a lot of money. A lot of questions here. And once again, we need experienced people to answer these questions. Changes. Changes are the greatest enemy of automation. If user interface changes, we shall rewrite some tests. If some technology changes, we shall rewrite some tests. If anything changes in a project, we usually have to rewrite some automated tests, and it takes a lot of time. And it even may force us to choose some other tools, another strategy, or even we may need other experienced people that we do not have at the time. The last but not least, yes, with a smile, hopes. Some people still think that they may buy with a lot of money some magical tool with one big button with label "Make it work" on it. So they only press that button and everything somehow magically works. Unfortunately, that's not so. As we see, there's a lot of questions to ask. There's a lot of things to do, and if we do those things right, we may benefit from test automation. Otherwise, we risk to fail. So, what is the conclusion here? Like any other approach, test automation is good if managed wisely. We cannot blindly jump into test automation with hopes that everything will work just fine. It surely will not. But with good managed approach, with good estimations, with good consulting from experts, we may make test automation work at least good enough. Test automation as a skill becomes more and more required. For now, it is nice to have for classical manual testers. But I think in a couple of years this skill will become absolutely needed for any specialist in testing. Although there are rumors that manual testing may be replaced with test automation, I don't think it is so. It will stay on the stage, so automation will not really replace manual testing. And why? Because test automation opens new horizons. Of course, it replaces some human work, but it creates a lot of new tasks that may only be dealt with test automation. So I think it's good for the IT industry and for testing itself. It does not take work from humans. It opens new possibilities. And one more thing we should absolutely mention here. Automation is really good not for only testing, but in everyday life of any IT specialist. Why not to automate some file operations, some file copying, some maybe backups and so on? Why not to process your Office documents with some automated scripts? Why not automate reports creating some cross documents linking and so on? Why not to create special rules for email processing? Why not to use automation for virtual machines and virtual environment and so on and so on. There are a lot of tasks in everyday IT life that may be, and I think should be, automated.